There is a couple of Jeffs floating on Whiskytube. However, one has skyrocketed with his balance of humour, good looks, and great whiskey content. Yep, it's me. But there is also another Geoff. You know him as GWhisky, the legend, the king of lists and fantastic whiskey content. So I've asked him his top 5 whiskies in a desert island disc knockoff. No conditions, no rules, just him to pick 5 bottles of whiskey. So join me for some Geoff on Geoff. Let's crack on.
Geoff Whiskey.
I'm Geoff, you're Geoff. Welcome, Geoff.
A couple of shady Jeffs.
We do look like we're going to start like a really bad Blues Brothers like band.
I think we look incredible. I think all the ladies watching better hide their daughters. I don't even know if Whiskytube is ready for this kind of style, this kind of, what do you call it? Charisma, Riz.
Can't handle this. I can't handle this already. So we're going to chat through 5 drams, 5 bottles that better Geoff enjoys if he was on a desert island. 5 bottles he wants. There's no rules. It doesn't have to be like the other challenges. It's just a case of 5 drams that tickle his pickle.
Tickle my pickle. Number 1, I kind of set this up where I have different styles just because I want a little bit of variety, right? 5 peated whiskeys. I don't want 5 sherried whiskeys. So a little bit of everything. And because I want a touch of variety, I actually included a bourbon on this list. So the first whiskey that tickles my pickle, as you put it, is a Stag, not the George T. Stag, the big, $1,000 bottle. It's the one that sells, if you can find it at MSRP, it sells for about 70 American. It is really tough to find, and I think you have to know some people, and it's definitely not just going to be sat on a store shelf somewhere. So it is really tough to find at the MSRP, at the recommended retail price. But if you can find it, stellar bourbon, really, really good. Lots of depth, lots of richness. It's one of those things, I can see why it's so well hyped. It's really, really hyped up, and that's why it's tough to find, but I think it's worth it. I think it's, if you can find it, highly recommend it.
Would you say bourbon has a big, has had an impact in your whiskey journey? Was bourbon your gateway? Or would you say you went down the Irish route, the Scotch route, or just whatever you can get your little hands on?
Whatever I could get my hands on is basically the story of my late teens, early 20s. I definitely had bourbon back then, but it would be like, whiskey cokes. Bourbon has not been that integral to my journey. Oh God, did I just call it a journey? Yeah, no, it's not been that important to me over the years. I've always loved Scotch much, much more than bourbon. In fact, for the longest time, I kind of ignored the bourbon side of things. It didn't really do much for me. I found it too sweet. And I didn't find there was enough variety of flavor because fundamentally bourbon is a lot of vanilla and caramel and oak. And it's just kind of different variations of those basic 3 flavors.
Well, it'd be stupid if it tasted like bourbon.
As far as I was concerned. But I've gotten more and more into bourbon over the last couple years, I'd say. And I have some friends in the States, not just one. I have a few friends in the States that have been sort of pushing me into the bourbon world. And they're helping me find hard to find bottles like the Stag. I've got a bottle on the go here and it's phenomenal. So yeah, I think bourbon is something I had to warm up to. It wasn't a love at first dram or anything like that. Do you have any bourbons of yours?
I've dabbled in the bourbon world. It was almost more of a gateway for me. It was bourbon and Irish. And then I very much fell down the Scotch rabbit hole. And since then it's been hard to get out. But have you got anything in the glass? This is what I'm going to pour in my first glass.
I've got some in the glass right here. Yeah.
Is that your mystery pour? Is that what you're going to announce later on?
As usual, guys, I do have a mystery pour in my glass here. Yeah, if you'll allow me.
The floor is fully yours. I'm here. I was going to say I'm here to milk you, but that's for a different show. I'm here to
no. That's that for the OnlyFans. That's the OnlyFans channel.
Just have a good excuse to have GWhisky in my title and thumbnail. That's the only reason for today. I'm not interested in your answers. I'm just interested in cutting out your face for a thumbnail and putting your name in the title.
I feel so used. And I like it.
Just learn even more about you than I didn't plan to. Good to know. I actively dislike watching your channel, but due to the sole fact, yeah, it's that disco microphone. Neon's my thing, damn it.
I am getting so much shit for this microphone. I suppose I could change it, but it's expensive. If I push it back, the sound gets worse. And when I bring it forward, the sound gets much, much better. But then I get 50 comments telling me how terrible the microphone is and that it's childish and that it's ugly and that it's tacky. So
we got similar names. There's that. And we do kind of infuse. I attempt at humor and you've mastered. Your humor is drier than the Sahara and it's just brilliant.
Well, as flattering as that is, and it is very flattering, you can rest assured that I have absolutely zero charisma unless I script it, take 12 different takes, and cobble it together in editing so that I have something resembling a charming personality. It doesn't just happen, but thank you.
Should we fly through to talk about the second bottle, your second pick?
4, I'm definitely going to want something peated on my little island. So I figured I'd go with Kilchoman Cognac release, which was a special release, I think, from 2023. So a couple years old now, although I think you should still be able to find it. It'll depend on your market, but that was a phenomenal whiskey. I'm a big fan of the Kilchoman House style. And I'm also a huge, huge fan of cognac casks. Cognac in particular seems to work very well with peat, not necessarily cognac, but brandy in general works very well with peat. And I thought, yeah, it was just a fantastic dram. 50% bold, great flavors, and the casks and the distillate are just, they complement each other beautifully. So yeah, really, really good stuff. Highly recommend it.
I did purposely grab the Kilchoman Snake just in case that's nearby, and I picked up my little tiny wee bottle just in case that got a mention as well. But it's a case
adorable.
of
Look at that.
thank you. But what about the bottle?
Yeah, you can take it or leave it.
It's with that. So with it being a cognac cask, I really agree. I think they are banging stuff. I've got the cognac peated Glasgow. A little, I say a little sample. It is a fistful sample. It will tie me over for a few days, and that's fantastic. I know a lot of people now have very much left the cask finishing train, and they're now moving towards the bourbon barrel purists, the refill barrels, the spirit led, more youthy, ethanol, punchy, vibrant stuff. Where do you feel about cask finishing? Are you pro port, or are you solely, keep it pure?
So I mean, I'm a flip-flopper. I'm a slut. I'll take it any way I can get it. I like having the option. I'm not a big fan of over-the-top cask influence. So if it's too much, if we're overwhelming the distillate, if there's no more, nuance or character behind just a very active cask, I typically would not have much interest. But I'm not a purist in the sense that I want every Scotch to be purely ex-bourbon matured. I think I appreciate the variety. I think casks, you get cognac casks, brandy casks, sherry casks, whatever. If it's well done and if it's well managed and it doesn't overwhelm the distillate, then it's just adding more flavor and more complexity. And that's just a whole playground of flavor that you have there. So no, it's not like I don't need everything to be ex-bourbon matured. I certainly appreciate that profile, but I like the variety that casks offer us.
So if you was to go for one finish, not like an extreme finish, but if there's only one route, would you you'll follow like the Glenalleckies? Would you go solely sherry, or is there one finish that if you can only have one finished like type of whiskey, is there any cask type that you would lean towards?
Brandy, stuff like the Craigellachie 13. That's an Armagnac finish. That's fantastic. I like that it's subtle. So I've never had a brandy cask where it's just all cask. So I just think it complements the distillate nicely, and it adds some nice fruity notes and some interesting flavors, but it never overwhelms. So I think that's why I tend to sort of gravitate towards brandy matured stuff. Back in the day, I feel like we didn't get too much in the way of brandy maturations, but they're popping up more and more over the last 5 years, I want to say, and I'm all for it.
So with it being in the last 5 years more popping up, how long would you say you've been on your whiskey? To use the word, you started it, it's your fault, the whiskey journey.
Such a douchey word, but it just falls out. Like I'll be talking and then, oh, fuck, I'm going to say journey, aren't I? Yeah, I am. Okay. So, I mean, I got properly into whiskey about 15 years ago, around 2009, 2010. And I think in no small part coincided with me coming to Taiwan. I've been in Taiwan for a very long time, and I moved actually in 2010. So it would have been around there that I properly got into whiskey. And I think that's just because I had some friends that were into it here, and it is extremely cheap. I am from Canada, where we have very high taxes, and alcohol is just exorbitantly expensive. So I remember coming here and walking into a whiskey shop for the first time and thinking, "Oh my goodness, we're looking at literally half the price that I'd be paying back home." Cheap. I suppose I'm just a cheap person at heart, and I thought, okay, this is a good deal. And I started drinking more and more whiskey because, I had some friends that were into it, and that's what got me started. And my liver is not grateful for that.
It's not your biggest fan.
Not my biggest fan. No. Drink responsibly, children. Wait, children. So we did the bourbon. We did a peated whiskey. Next up, my favorite style of whiskey are coastal whiskeys. So a lot of the stuff out of the Western Highlands, island whiskeys. I love a little bit of a salty, savory note in my whiskeys. So one of my favorite brands is Oban. I'm a huge Oban fan, and I'm going to go with the Oban 12-year-old, which was from 2021, I want to say. It's from a few years back. It's still around. You can still buy it, at least here. I'm not sure about other markets, but it's still around. It's not too expensive. It's cast strength. It was part of the Diageo special releases for 2021. And yeah, phenomenal whiskey. Very bold flavors. It's very coastal. I think it's mostly ex-bourbon casks, fully ex-bourbon. I don't remember, but very distillate driven stuff. And just because I'm such a fan of that style, that coastal style of distillate, I think that's just such a phenomenal whiskey.
The salty, the coastal, they're kind of the ones where it feels like you're taking a walk on a cliff edge, feeling the breeze in your hair. I've always got a soft spot for Talisker for that same reason. And Ardnamurchan, that's my jam. And a coastal cocktail is one that I would never get past. If you use, I wouldn't recommend maybe the fancy Oban in there, but any like salty kind of coastal led dram in an old fashioned game changer. I don't know, what is your thoughts on the cocktail scene? Are you fully no, it has got to be neat, if it's not, get out? Or are you pour it whatever you want, mix it however you want, let's get freaky?
I don't have any strong opinions about it. It doesn't offend me. Cocktails don't offend me just because I prefer normal whiskey, straight whiskey. I don't pour cocktails. I don't really make cocktails. If somebody wants a cocktail, fine, man, live your life. Like, I don't care. For my preference, no, I'm not a big cocktail guy though. The occasional old fashioned or whiskey sour, I'll drink a cocktail if I have to.
So with GWhisky now becoming a whiskey cocktail channel, what is the future that you see? Kind of, do you have any goals? Do you have like aims? Do you year by year track it, or do you just go with the flow?
I mean, I'm happy with the way things are going. It's always going to be, from a place of passion. Maybe grow the channel in that sense where I can actually start making money, because it's so much time and it's so much effort. I mean, I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it, and it's very rewarding and blah, blah, blah. But it is a whole lot of work to keep the channel going. Whiskey's expensive, man. And I think people don't understand, like, we're not paid chills. We're not taking money. We're buying these bottles. And obviously it's a luxury product. So we're poor.
It's not a peasant's game. And and as you said as well, like, to replace your hideously vibrant, distracting microphone, like, that costs money as well. And running a channel, the cost on top of that.
My next one. So we talked a little bit about bourbon matured whiskeys and how we don't want everything to be bourbon matured, but it is a style that I appreciate. And with that in mind, I'm going to go with the Rose Isle 12 from 2023. Phenomenal stuff. If you're looking for something that's distillate driven and just ticks all the boxes, it's cast strength and it's flavorful, and it really is just, you're tasting a distillate. It tastes rounded, it's complex, and just very satisfying. Like, it's just a very satisfying whiskey to drink. Very much my style of whiskey. And this is one of those ones, apparently it's called the Death Star, this distillery.
I think I can get him before he gets there. He's almost in range.
That's no moon.
Because it's super modern. And I think Diageo, like, it's huge. And Diageo initially had intended for it to pick up if, a distillery is not running well, or can, if they need extra stock to throw in their blends or something like that. It just sort of keeps the machine churning. But I don't think they intended it for it to be, this single malt that would sell on its own. But they did release one a couple years back. It's their oddly enough, their inaugural release was a 12-year-old, and there wasn't a lot of noise about it. Obviously, when people found out it was a new distillery, they were interested. It didn't make a big splash when it was released, but it should have, because it is such a good whiskey. Really, really good. It's not cheap. Certainly not for a 12-year-old, but at least it is cast strength. But yeah, I cannot recommend that one enough. If you like your ex-bourbon matured whiskeys, man, that one is a banger. How much does it sell for there? No, it should be under 100 pounds.
Rose Isle 12-year-old special release, the 2024 one, is 140.
Jeez, no. Well, so to be fair, I've not tried the 2024, but come on, man, 140 for, fine, cast strength, natural, but calm down.
12-year-old whiskey 2023, first result, GWhisky. I'll bookmark that to watch later. No, I'm joking. I won't watch that.
No, I wouldn't.
Oh no, yeah. So it said it was 135.
Far too much. I think it costs what I paid here. It would be around 90 pounds, the equivalent of about 90 pounds. So it is cheaper here.
Have you got a room where I can move out that way with you, or?
No, but I do have a cardboard box that I could
I'll take
unfold
it.
for you.
It's still an upgrade for me.
You can keep your bottles inside, but you yourself have to stay outside.
When they say GWhisky, the first word is always benevolent. You know, he is the Saint Geoff.
I'm known for my altruism.
With new whiskies being the topic, has there been any new distilleries that has really got your heart racing? Like anything that you've been waiting for the release?
So there's a couple that I've yet to try. I know you're big into Loch Lee. I've tried one or two of theirs, and for me, they were rather young. I think you reviewed there was a stout one or a barley one or something. There's one you looked at recently that you were raving about. So that's something I might want to pick up at some point. Hirach, I don't know if that's how you say it. Hirach. I have yet to try that one. I hear a lot of good things, so that's definitely one I'm excited to try. I've already tried the Ardnaho, which is fantastic. Obviously, Ardnamurchan, hardly new with their, they put out a 10-year-old this year. So we've been on about them for years in the whiskey world. Beyond that, no. I mean, I can't, not off the top of my head, can't think of much.
I do a lot of design deep dives and rubbish like that because that's my day job. Is there a bottle that doesn't matter about the liquid inside? Is there a bottle where you can just think that looks stunning? Like I would smash that.
Obvious answer, the one that people always kind of default to is Hibiki, but I mean, yeah, Hibiki. Hibiki is a gorgeous looking whiskey. I've got a 21-year-old that I picked up when I was in Japan a couple years back. They had a deal at the airport where it was like half the price that you'll find it in shops. So I grabbed that, and yeah, it's such a beautiful whiskey, or such a beautiful bottle rather. I think I've got it just here. I'm too lazy to pull it out, but yeah, Hibiki, easy answer, but beautiful bottle.
I enjoyed that. The little, I'm gonna sod it. It's not worth.
Well, you know what it is. I may or may not be in my underwear right now, and if I'm rummaging around the boxes behind me, again, we'll save that for the OnlyFans content.
Jeff on Jeff after dark. Yeah, I'm fully with you on Hibiki. Yeah, that's my infinity bottle. Hibiki Harmony's become my infinity on the go, where I just kind of pour in the last dregs. I don't really take stock, which I should do, and I regret not doing it, but I've always just poured like the last dregs of bottles in there. Or when it's getting really low and I'm thinking, I've got so many low bottles, I won't get to it. I'm just going to pour that into the Hibiki blend and see what that turns out with. Currently, it's pretty trash. Is that something you've toyed with? Infinity bottles, infinity barrels, or a Dud's jug?
Yeah, I've had them before. I don't have one on the go now. For no other reason than when I did have one, it ended up being just garbage. And that's on me, because I was not very selective about what I'd put in it. So it was just like, if a bottle's almost done, there it goes. I wouldn't taste it and think, what does this need? I'd just be like, cool idea. I think it's such a great concept. And I think if you actually want to pay attention and you actually want to tinker with it and you want to sort of work on, all right, well, maybe we can improve it here, here, and here, and you think about what goes in. Sure, that's a fun little project. It's just not something
and it's such a time consuming thing as well. Like with Whiskytube, how much time, you don't have to answer this, it's just me being damn nosy, but how much time do you feel like you invest per video? Because I know lots of people don't understand. I know for me, my editing's fully just polishing turds. Like I have to remove every stutter that I do. And I'd be interested to know what your whiskey process is for a video. Like, do you buy a new bottle and think, yep, let's go, this is banging, let's rave about it? Or do you kind of measure yourself as you go along and think, right, I'm ready to sit down, flip on the camera, put on a t-shirt at least, but you can stay in your underpants because you're waist high, and then bash it out?
I have like requests, there's people that want to see certain bottles, and if I get enough, or if there's patrons that want to see something in particular, those will get prioritized. The stuff I review, like there's a lot of stuff I don't review. Like if I've got IBs or something that's rare or something that's unique to the Taiwan market, for example, those bottles I'll skip for no other reason than I am a slut for views and I want people to actually click on the video. And if I'm talking about something, like I said, less than 2% of my audience is in Taiwan. So if I start talking about, Taiwanese exclusives, people rightly so would be tuning out. some of them I think might tune in just out of interest or out of curiosity, but I do choose bottles that I think people want to learn about, bottles that are widely available, bottles that are popular. Not ashamed to say that. So yeah, that is a consideration. And then just kind of script it, shoot. Usually shooting's about 2 hours or so, hour and a half to 2 hours. Editing, depending on how edit heavy the video is, that'll be another 3 hours, let's say. So each video that I put out is probably a good 5 to 7 hours of time. It's labor intensive. If you're doing that twice a week, it's a lot of, and I work full time. I try and exercise and I cook, and I need naps because I'm old. I don't have much time for, indulgences like, infinity bottles and stuff. And to be honest, because we think about whiskey so much and we talk about whiskey so much, like, I don't know, sometimes I'm just whiskeyed out.
100%. Yeah. I'm so impressed how you can be so on the pulse all the time and have so many well-produced, funny videos coming out so often. I struggle to do one every 2 weeks at the moment. Geoff, he looks like a man who's not had his bell rung for a while, so make sure you go on his channel and click that, because I always get excited when I see the notification of your video coming through. Normally it's, right, I can't do that right now, I'm making tea for the family, or I'll come back to
I
that,
appreciate the fact that you immediately disregard your family and come watch a GWhisky video. I think I think you've got your priorities straight.
Kids grow themselves up these days. They've got TikTok. Well, not anymore, but they could have it.
Look at us on finger on the pulse of the pop culture, huh?
Yeah, but by the time I edit this in about 4 weeks and it comes out, it won't be relevant anymore.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's fun. Like, it's the type of thing. We're definitely not in it for the money, are we? So if you're not into whiskey, I'm sorry, you getting paid?
That's the only reason I'm doing this, is for that sweet £2 a month I get.
Oh yeah, paid shill. Cannot be trusted. This is he's a sellout channel. That's what they're saying about Geoff Gwhisky.
This I'll have this is a linen blend.
Cashmere, baby.
But yeah, it is just for fun, isn't it? We do it because we enjoy it. I don't know about you, but I've got no one close to me who I can chat whiskey to, so this is my outlet. Do you have like a core whiskey group?
Yeah, I do.
I'll rub it in, why don't you?
What's cool about the channel too is that, normally the older you get, I'm in my 40s now, and usually the older you get, your group of friends starts to shrink. But thanks to the channel, there's, people that come to Taipei and they say, oh, GWhisky's in Taipei. They reach out. Just this weekend, in fact, I'm meeting up with a guy who's flying in from California to see his family. He's bringing a bottle over for me. So I'm making new friends as a result of the channel, which is amazing. And I do have my core group of whiskey friends that I've been, hanging out with for well over a decade now. So that's definitely helped a lot. Especially when it comes to like financial stuff, because a lot of the bottles I review, I borrow from my friends and I've had at them. So it's not like something that I'm not familiar with, but I don't need to buy all of the whiskeys that I review on the channel, which is something I'm very grateful for.
It's an expensive game reviewing it, and you're often really good as well at covering newer releases and like bottles that are fresher to the market. I don't know if there's much of a delay. I'm quite fortunate with Scotch. I'm close, it's not touching distance, but I'm closer. Do you find there's much of a delay? Because when you release a video so quickly after it being like, well, maybe it's just me being slow, being aware of it, but do you find there's a delay from where Whiskytube starts raving about a bottle and then it's in your market?
Yeah, there is. I think you're just learning about these bottles rather late, because I'm not getting them that fast. Oftentimes I have to wait a good 6 months, sometimes even a year. Obviously, if something is relatively new, I'll try and review it as soon as I can if it's something people are talking about. But no, I don't get stuff fast at all. We tend to have to wait a good 6 months. Ardnaho, for example, that took us a year to get that inaugural 5-year-old.
Maybe it's me.
I mean, you got Amazon and you can order online there, so that's pretty handy, right?
That is, yes. Not to praise the third Jeff, Mr. Bezos, but it is damn handy being able to order alcohol over there.
Easily the worst Jeff.
The second worst Jeff. Leave it in the comments who is the worst one, but we all know. But yeah, I can't complain about Amazon because I use it because I am very much a budget buyer. I've got a micro whiskey budget. And yeah, Amazon have some ridiculously good deals at times. They recently had the special releases with like 50% off. And I was too slow to check that out. I can still get my Cutty Sark Prohibition for 20 odd quid.
Great pour that.
And with that great pour, what would be your fifth bottle, your final great pour?
My last one, one of my all-time favorites, I'm going to go with the Longmorn 18. Now, there's actually two Longmorn 18s. There's a newer one, and it's cast strength, and it's like double the price, which is not ideal. In my market, you can still buy the old one. That one's 48%, so not a slouch in the ABV department, and just a phenomenal whiskey. I did want something in there that was, well aged, a little bit more on the posh, expensive side. Even that one, like back when it was widely available, and it's still, like I said, still available here. It only sold for just over 110 US. So what's that, like 90 something pounds? And that was very, very, very fair for what you're getting. Quality's there, fantastic whiskey, rich, well aged. And I'm a huge fan of the Longmorn character, which is kind of like grassy. It's very interesting. It's very distinctive. So definitely recommend that one. And Longmorn in general, I don't think enough people know about. I think enthusiasts know about it, but it's not as popular as I feel it deserves to be. Then again, I don't want to say that now that they've gone all posh and doubled their prices. So whatever, make of that.
Yeah.
Make of that what you will, but it's a damn good brand, and that's a damn good bottle of whiskey.
Yeah. So with you being a posh rich boy and letting that leak now,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
fully
out.
with you. Longmorn is just amazing. I only recently had a 1993 Secret Space Hide release. I think it was
Wow,
1993.
nice.
So it's only fractionally older than I am. No, younger than I am. How old am I? I'm legal. That's all that matters. No, I was going to make another that. I was trying to think of it. I had an inappropriate joke lined up, which is always my problem because I've got a
You
very
want to say
dark-
them, but then you're like, oh no, we
Oh.
can't put that out. Sometimes they even make it into the final edit, and then you'll have some people that are less than happy with your with your sense of humor. I remember I was talking on a video recently that was talking about an Armagnac that I had that was ancient. It was like from the 60s or something. And I said, this is one of the oldest things I've ever put in my mouth. And growing up, my priest was no spring chicken. I remember getting an email from someone about that, telling me how inappropriate it was. Oh, sorry. Fair enough.
that
was
is
not
going in. I am not cutting that.
super good. Great distillery, and I think a little bit underappreciated. So, folks, if you've not tried a Longmorn, try one.
Brilliant insight, not only to your top 5 whiskeys or your whiskey island or whatever I'm going to phrase this on YouTube, but also into you. So I'm really grateful you chatting about this. Is there anything else you want to kind of cover?
No. We'll end it on a high note. Why not?
I was going to say you're going to lower the tone, but it's already bottom shelf. It's already on its knees. The last thing is, what is that delicious whiskey?
Day drunk. Shameful. Well, if you know me and you know the channel a little bit, then you know that this was my first whiskey of the year, and I've been ranting and raving about it ever since. I think that was my first year was 2020, so this was my whiskey of the year in 2020, and this is Craig Alki 13. I think it's one of my all-time favorite budget pours. It's not expensive. It's widely available. It's got character, a little bit of funk. It's not a newbie whiskey. We have some challenging elements in here, but damn flavorful and just delicious stuff.
With Craig 13 being your pour today and your love of cognac casks, which one do you prefer? The normal Craig 13 or the finished? Yeah, thank you.
Good question. I think I like them both, to be honest. I couldn't pick one. Obviously, the Armagnac is not as budget friendly. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's not exorbitant or anything. So I don't know. That's a tough call. I think probably if all else is equal, I might go for the Armagnac. I do think it's phenomenal stuff, but it's a slight. I think it would depend on my mood, really. Equal,
And
same.
That's that's such a cop out answer for me.
I would call it diplomatic, but I think cop out is more appropriate.
For me, I felt it rounded off the classic Craig so much, maybe a bit too much for my liking. It became a little bit sweeter, softer. I like to be a bit dominated by my whiskey. I like to be slapped around a bit. It was the sunglasses, and I could still see your eyebrows raise as you said that.
Yeah, I was going to say something else there too, but then no, on camera can't.
Yeah, we're being very civil here. The edit, I don't know how civil the edit will be.
We're behaving. Look at us.
2 grown-ups living our
Stand
best
up,
life.
fellas. You and I.
Couple of top class Jeffs.
Wholesome content. That's what we're making right here. This has been fun.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, buddy. Good to see you.